Hello, everybody. This is Dan Scheinman, Vice President of Audubon Society of Central Arkansas. Thanks for tuning in to our monthly meeting. We will have our business meeting after this presentation, so everyone is welcome to stay on for that and participate. But for now, enjoy our guest speaker, who is Jennifer Menge, who is a park interpreter at Lake Ouachita State Park. And as a park interpreter for over 8 years, she has worked for national parks as well, and state parks in Louisiana, Texas, and Arkansas. She has a bachelor's in Anthropology and Environmental Studies from Tulane University, and she's here tonight to tell us about scorpions. Take it away, Jen.
All right, thanks. Well, hi everyone. Thanks for joining me today. I'm pretty excited to give this presentation. It's one that's it's kind of different than the kind of presentations I usually get to give. Normally, I'm talking about Lake Ouachita and fishing and kayaking, things like that. So today I get to talk a little bit about scorpions, which I personally find pretty interesting, and I'm hoping that's going to be interesting to all of y'all. Now, bear with me. This is kind of new for everybody. So I'm going to share my screen, and if there's any problems with people seeing my screen or hearing me, please just let me know. But I'm going to go ahead and just start sharing.
And I'll note everyone's on mute, but you can type your questions and comments in the chat box at any time.
Okay, so everyone hopefully should see the title screen here. And we're gonna get on with it here. So we're talking about scorpions. And before we get into the kind of the nitty gritty, I usually ask folks, who's a fan? where are my fans, right? And of course, I'm not actually talking about the band Scorpions. I'm talking about actual scorpions. Now, a lot of times when I ask that question, I get mixed results. Some people are interested in them, but a lot of people are kind of leery of them. They don't like scorpions. They associate them with stinging and pain and just creepiness, and they're not really fans. But we're going to talk more about scorpions and about some of their really interesting qualities. And I'm hoping maybe to change your mind just a little bit here, because they're very interesting creatures. But first, we need to talk about what are scorpions. So they are arachnids. That's going to put them in the same family as things like ticks, spiders, mites. And generally, when talking about arachnids, you're talking about something that has 2 body parts and 4 pairs of legs and a hard exoskeleton. Scorpions are also very old. They first appear in the fossil record about 430 million years ago. That's going to put them before even the dinosaurs. So they are ancient creatures. There are 111 fossil species known. The oldest genus of scorpion known is Paleophonus, and you'll note that the translation of that name is ancient killer. So you can see right off the bat, we're painting scorpions as these evil things, these killers, these things to be feared, right? But going back to some of their physical characteristics that we can see in scorpions today, again, you're going to note that they have those 4 pairs of legs, 2 body parts, an exoskeleton. And unique to scorpions, what a lot of people associate with scorpions, of course, you're going to have the pair of grasping pinchers or claws and the venomous sting. A lot of people know that sting. We have that tail and the stinger. Now the tail is called the metasoma. It's not a true tail. It's actually just an extension of the back body part. At the end of that tail, you're going to have the telson or the stinger. If you look close at the picture down below, you're going to see that there are these small little sensory hairs on the stinger. And that actually helps to guide the scorpion to know where to sting. And where are you going to find scorpions? You're pretty much going to find them all over. They are found everywhere except for Antarctica. They were accidentally introduced into some areas that were isolated by oceans. But they typically prefer areas where temperatures are going to be a little bit warmer. So of course, you probably associate scorpions with things like deserts, southern areas such as Arkansas here. But you can find them in almost any habitat except for places that's going to be really, really cold, say like a Now, in their habitats, they have certain behaviors. So they are nocturnal. They're mostly going to come in at night. And they're fossorial. So that means that they tend to burrow in the ground. They're also photophobic, and that means that they're very sensitive to light. Now, a lot of these behaviors that we notice here, nocturnal, fossorial, photophobic, they like to burrow, they come in at night, they stay out of the light, is probably a way that they can avoid predators. And things that are going to feed on scorpions, things like bats, spiders, mice. But as predators themselves, scorpions are pretty gnarly. They are opportunistic feeders, so they're going to eat basically anything they can take down. And that's really going to depend on the size of the scorpion. So some of your smaller scorpions, they're just going to eat other small arthropods. Some of your larger ones are going to be able to take down things like birds and lizards. And the way that they kill their prey, by two methods, either by crushing them with their pinchers or by, of course, stinging them and letting that venom take its course. Now, the way they eat their food is pretty interesting. There is no internal digestion going on here. It's all external. So after they kill their prey, they are going to pull apart the prey with their mouth parts, so the chelicerae, and they're going to put that prey into a pre-oral cavity. And this pre-oral cavity contains digestive enzymes, so that's where the digestion actually occurs. And from there, they will drink that in a liquid form. But some scorpion species can survive about 6 to 12 months without food at all. So they might get that one meal, turn it into a slurry, drink it up, and they're good for a year. Here in the picture too, you can see it looks like it's eating a grasshopper here. You notice those mouth parts, it's actually grabbing onto part of the grasshopper about to put in that pre-oral cavity. But of course, no dinner is complete without a date. So we're going to talk about reproduction. They do reproduce sexually, but they have a really intricate, unique mating ritual. So before mating actually occurs, they engage in what's called a promenade à deux, or a mating dance, where the male will grab the female by the pinchers, and you see in the top picture there, and lead her around in sort of like a dance or kind of in circles. They've been shown to engage in kissing, so they're actually taking their mouth parts and they're kind of rubbing them against each other. And even venom exchange, where the male will lightly sting the female, probably as a means to pacify her. The average litter for scorpions is usually about 8, but depending on the species, you may have anywhere from 2 to hundreds of scorpions, and they are born live. It's kind of unique to scorpions. After the young are born, if you look in the bottom picture there, you're going to see that they climb on the back of the mother. They're going to stay on their mother's back usually until their first molt, which would be in about 1 to 2 weeks. After their first molt, they'll leave the mother's back, and they'll continue to molt for the next few months or years until they reach maturity. Usually that's going to mean about 5 to 7 molts. Now, when I last gave this presentation, I had a really great question. Somebody asked me how early scorpions are able to sting once they're born. There's no hard and fast answer, but from what research is showing, it looks like they're not able to sting until after their first molt. And that's probably because they don't want, a whole bunch of stinging baby scorpions on the back of a mother. And so after their first molt, they'll gain the ability to sting. And they can, of course, sting prey and humans after they're off of their mother's back. We talked about how scorpions are kind of scary for people or evil or, associated with pain. But I mean, look at this picture here. You got little baby scorpions, and they are in fact called scorplings, which, I mean, come on, that's a little cute, you got to admit, right? So you see here, there's one on the mother's back, and compared to the size of a quarter and a penny, now these things are tiny, right? But the only species of scorpion that you are going to find in Arkansas is this one here. It's the striped bark scorpion. That is the only scorpion you will find here in the wild. And it's called the striped bark scorpion because if you look on the back, you're going to see these two dark bands or these two dark stripes. And this scorpion is pretty common in the southern and the central regions of the United States. It's not a very large scorpion, grows to be about 2.5 inches. You're going to find these scorpions in a lot of the same places you would find other scorpions, like we talked about earlier. You're going to find them basically hiding under things, trying to get away from light, get away from predators. Now, what you may notice, say, in your shed or in your house, if you've ever found scorpions in your attic or in your basement, in your garage, they're trying to get in these places where they're able to hide and get into dark places. So an attic is great for them, a crack in your foundation, a woodshed. You're going to find scorpions there because that's basically their habitat, right? These particular ones don't actually exhibit any burrowing behavior. They can survive being frozen throughout the winter and then be rejuvenated in the spring with the warmer temperatures. Some scorpions, I'm not exactly sure about these ones in particular, but some of them can actually survive being submerged underwater for about 48 hours. So if you ever see a scorpion floating in a pool or a bathtub, don't assume that it's dead and it can't sting, because it can very much come back alive once you scoop it out of the water there. These scorpions eat spiders and insects, though they can eat other scorpions if food sources are scarce. And the average litter size here would be 31 compared to 8 with some other species. But what's pretty cool about scorpions is that they actually live quite long. So these scorpions here live to be about 3 to 8 years. There are some scorpion species, though, that can live to be about 30 years old, which is pretty amazing, I think. So, what does all this mean for us? Why do we want to learn about scorpions, right? I mean, scorpions freak us out, right? Why do we want to learn about them? And there may be some of you right now that are looking at this picture and are going, oh my gosh, what is that lady doing? We have a long history with the way we portray scorpions, throughout our stories and our fables. So I'll stop sharing here for a minute. I'll share with you this one fable is called The Scorpion and the Frog, or The Scorpion and the Turtle, depending on which one you're reading. But the story basically goes something like this. There's a scorpion that asks a turtle if he wouldn't mind transporting him across a river. And the turtle, of course, is hesitant. He says, well, why would I do that? You're just going to sting me. The scorpion responds, well, if I did that, we'd both sink. The turtle can't argue with that. So he says, okay, hop on my back, let's go. Halfway across the river, the scorpion stings him. And as they're sinking down to the water, the turtle looks back and says, why did you sting me? And the scorpion replies, because it's my nature to do so. Right? It's their nature to sting. It's their nature to cause pain and evil. And that's how we portrayed them throughout time, throughout history. Let's go back here to my screen. All you have to do is look at the way scorpions are portrayed in our symbols. Going all the way back to ancient Egypt, going back to the zodiac, looking at our modern movies and video games. Scorpions are evil. Scorpions are bringers of pain. Look at the top image there. That's Scorpio stinging Orion, the great hunter. His deadly sting kills the great hunter, and even to this day, they're placed in opposite ends of the night sky, so they never interact with one another. Scorpio being a summer constellation, Orion being a winter constellation. And everyone fears that sting. All scorpions, they have stingers, they have venom, but out of over 1,000 species of scorpions, only 25 are known to be deadly to humans. The striped bark scorpion, which is the one that we have here in Arkansas, isn't really anything to be concerned about. The venom is pretty low on the toxic level for humans. If you are stung, anyone who ever has been stung probably would tell you it's painful, but it's close to being stung by a wasp. It usually isn't anything that's going to be life-threatening. If you are a young child or elderly, it may be something you want to seek medical attention for, but generally it's not going to be fatal. And worldwide, you're looking at just over 3,000 deaths a year from scorpion stings. Most of those are going to be outside of North America. So instead of looking at stings as something to be afraid of or something that's fatal, we might start looking at stings and scorpion venom as something that might heal us, or as medicine. So the scorpion venom consists of peptides, neurotoxins, and enzyme inhibitors. It basically works to stop the electrical impulses that are happening within the body. So it's fast acting, it's very potent. But a lot of those same compounds in scorpion venom that can be used to hurt can also be used to heal. So scientists have been studying and using those compounds to treat a wide variety of medical ailments. So we're talking things like cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, use it to treat malaria, as an antibacterial, painkillers. It can even help prevent organ rejection. So a lot of these compounds they're able to study and they're able to synthesize in a lab and use that as medicine. And there's a really neat newer technology that they've developed using scorpion venom called tumor paint. And with this scorpion venom, they're able to isolate these compounds and inject them in patients that have brain cancer. And these compounds are attaching themselves to tumors in the brain. And under a certain scan, scientists are able to actually see these tumors illuminate. That's because of that scorpion venom compound. When you talk about illumination, you got to talk about one of the coolest things about scorpions is the fact that they fluoresce. So they glow under a black light. So these images that you're seeing on the screen, these are real images. This is how they actually appear underneath a black light or an ultraviolet light. They're glowing because there are fluorescent chemicals in the cuticle, in the exoskeleton of the scorpion. But nobody really knows why they do this. There's a pretty strong hypothesis out there that basically is saying scorpions are able to convert low-level UV light from the moon, which is something that we can't detect ourselves, into this blue-green light, and they're able to detect that more easily. Scorpions really don't have great vision. It's mostly light they're able to sense. Remember, they're photophobic, so they want to stay away from light. So any way that they can detect light is going to help to keep them safe, keep them away from predators. So if they're able to easily detect even low-level light, say from the moon, they're able to get some shelter, keep themselves away from predators, especially those nocturnal predators. So that's what they're thinking. It's basically one big light detection system. Now you'll notice here on the bottom photo, it's a mother and her babies, and the babies are on her back, but the babies are not fluorescing. They're not glowing that blue-green because that chemical in the cuticle has not developed. The cuticle hasn't developed yet. They haven't gone through their first molt. After their first molts, their exoskeleton will harden, and they're going to get that ability, basically get those compounds in them that are going to let them fluoresce. So we can go back to our story, our portrayal of scorpions as something that's in their nature to be evil, to sting, to hurt people. But, there's an argument out there that we can start to think of scorpions as something that can heal us, something that's going to provide medicine and treatments and cures in the future. So now I want to know, where are the fans? Has any of this changed your mind maybe a little bit about scorpions? They're pretty interesting creatures. What we do at the state park, I'll stop sharing my screen here too. We basically go out at night on night hikes and we take our blacklight flashlights and we go seeking out scorpions. And it is really amazing to walk down a trail at night. You have all the night sounds around you and you look on the ground, you just see these glowing blue-green scorpions. And it is pretty neat to see. If you ever get a chance, come out to the state park at night and join us on one of those hikes. It's a lot of fun. This is something you can do at home too. You can buy these blacklight flashlights easily on Amazon, pretty cheap. And it's something you can do if you just want to go and have some fun, look for scorpions. If you want to know if there's any scorpions hanging out in your basement, your attic, it's pretty cool to go and look for them. So I hope you guys learned something about scorpions. I hope maybe you gained a little bit of appreciation for them. And thanks again for listening. If you guys have any questions, I'm here, so bring them on.
All right, thank you, Jen. So we do have some questions. So let's know if scorpions like areas maintained by prescribed burns.
That's a good question. I guess it would kind of depend on what material is left there after the burn. Again, scorpions are going to like areas where they can get cover from the light, from predators. So if the area still has little crevices and cracks they can get under, it's probably the same habitat for them. Like I said, these striped bark scorpions aren't really burrowing kinds, so I don't know if they would be that common in an area that has just been totally clear cut and burned down to the ground.
Yeah, so some of them may be harmed by prescribed burns, may lose some that can't escape the fire, but overall, if prescribed burns are improving the habitat for all wildlife, then presumably eventually scorpions will return and it'll be good.
Sure, yeah.
What is the scorpion's role in the food chain?
So they're actually pretty important in the food chain. One, they're going to provide a source of food for, things like I showed you, bats and mice and tarantulas. But, since they are opportunistic feeders, they're able to feed almost on anything they can take down. So they're going to play a role in keeping other insect levels down, while providing food for some of those, higher up, level animals, especially, mammals like our bats, and we all love those. So.
Well, since some animals are predators on scorpions, are there any animals, any predators that are immune to scorpion venom to help them catch scorpions?
Sure, yeah. So they think that certain species of mice may actually have immunity to scorpion venom. Same thing with some bats. They think have the ability to eat them without harm.
So if you're walking around at night looking for the scorpions, and they generally don't attack, what does cause them to sting you? Why would they sting you?
Usually it's going to be defense, getting frightened. Like I said, they don't really have great vision, so they're not really seeing you to sting you. It's usually that those sensory hairs on their stingers are getting stimulated. So, if you're getting close to them and you're poking at them, or if you step on a scorpion, a lot of times people are stung because they're stepping on a scorpion. It's usually that direct sensory contact is what's setting them off.
And how old do they have to be before they're able to sting?
Usually after their first molt, so about 1 to 2 weeks after they're born, they leave their mother's back.
All right. Are cats immune to scorpion stings? I'm a cat owner. I would like to know that. But my cats are indoor cats, so they hopefully won't encounter a scorpion.
Sure. Yeah. I haven't come across anything that said that. I would assume that they are not. One thing I kind of think of, say with pets that have a thick coats of fur, that might just be enough protection from the sting actually penetrating the skin. But as far as actual immunity, I don't think so.
So how did you get interested in scorpions?
I kind of always thought they were interesting. I got to play the fun card. I'm a Scorpio, and I always thought, hey, those are cool, right? But then, when I started working for parks and we started doing things like these night hikes and seeing scorpions, I started to get really interested in, what are scorpions about? It's kind of easy to just kind of pass them over and say, oh, they're just another pest, who cares? But they actually have a lot of interesting qualities, and the role in medicine, the future of medicine, I think is going to be huge. Coming up here in the next few years as science progresses, I think we're going to see a lot of uses of scorpion venom worldwide.
Sure. Well, it speaks to preserving our biodiversity, because we never know what chemicals other creatures produce that are going to be useful, from scorpions to snakes to jellyfish, all sorts of stinging, biting, venomous critters. Those chemicals have a lot of uses. Poison dart frogs as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Other questions? Feel free to type them in the chat box. One person does comment that some scorpions have electric blue blood. That's pretty interesting.
I actually did not know that. That is pretty cool.
How does the potentness, how does the potent of the venom correspond to the size of the victims?
Of the victims?
Yeah, so does it take more venom to kill a larger animal, I guess?
Sure, yeah. That's generally why they say, scorpions in the United States, it's usually not something you should be concerned about as something that could be fatal. But, if you are, like a child, a small infant, it is probably going to be more potent just because you are of a smaller size. So.
Sure. And then probably scorpion body size has some correlation to the size of the prey they hunt, which then correlates to the amount of venom that they typically use to subdue their victims.
Sure, yeah, and typically what you're going to find is that smaller scorpions actually will have more potent venom. Because if you look at a larger scorpion, they're usually going to be able to kill their prey with their pinchers, right? Because they're a lot larger, a lot stronger. They don't have to rely on that venom. Where a smaller one is going to actually need that venom to take down the prey.
Well, can that stinger be removed for domestic or captive scorpions?
You know, I'm not sure. From what I understand, I think a lot of, pet scorpions, things like that, are completely intact. It is part of their body, so I don't know that they would fare well without it. But what they do is they actually will milk scorpions in some of these captive cases, and then milk them for that venom for use in medicine and study and things like that. But I haven't heard of any actually being removed for like a domestic use.
I'm trying to picture how they squeeze the stinger of the scorpion to get the milk out. No, I'm kidding. Do you know which scorpions live to be 31 years old?
I don't know the species off the top of my head, but usually they're species that you're going to find like in India or in Asia.
Sure, more tropical climates probably have larger scorpions that then live longer because body size usually relates to longevity.
Sure.
Other questions? Feel free to type them in the chat box. Well, all right then. Jen, I appreciate you taking the time to give us this presentation and teach us about scorpions. I certainly learned a lot from this one. I was going to ask you how many species of scorpion Arkansas has, and you answered that for me. So thank you, and thanks for everything you've done, and thanks for all the people that you continue to educate. I hope more people learn about the value of scorpions. So,
yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me, and feel free to pass along my contact information to other members or educational groups. That's what the state parks are here for. We're here to teach folks and get them outdoors, and that's what we live to do. So anything we can do to help.